Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first live mess we're in. Please put your hands together more for your hosts of the evening, Glinna, Helen and Artie.
Yes. Yes.
I know. My jumper was just worn out.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the first and possibly the last, who knows, but
Very possibly.
mess we're in. Well, we don't know.
Hello.
It's such a strange show because it's kind of it kind of only exists because there's an international emergency in women's rights, and we're hoping it doesn't last forever. So unfortunately, at one point we'll have to hang up our spurs.
But it is really nice to see everyone, because this is like the comments, but in real life.
Yes, we
It's so exciting. A lot of you have come from out of town to be here, and that's amazing because, of course, so have I. So thank you to everybody who's traveled as well.
And also, we thought we'd dress up tonight because we've got, it's sort of Oscars night for mess we're in people. Birdie and Doozer are here somewhere, I think. Will you?
Who else is here? Any familiar faces in the audience?
Heather Brunskill Evans is here.
Oh my God, Heather's here! Amazing! Wow.
And all of the WRN lot of here.
Oh wow!
Big shout out to the WRN. They've been superb at being like friends and just getting things done. Like I've said so many times, a couple of women with a laptop, that's a committee.
Is there someone else as well?
You?
Me? Yeah, no, I know. No, I thought there was someone else. There's probably loads of people. I see Rob Jessel over there.
Oh wow!
Fair cop. Rob has been fighting for LGBT Alliance harder than a lot of people will ever know, And, the other reason we got dressed up is because even though this is supposedly the first show, it feels like a kind of a culmination of things. It feels like the tide is turning. And I would never have been brave enough to say that a few years,
Well, I think, to be fair, we say it all the time. I think
Yeah,
we're there.
well-
I think we're there.
No, like
Also,
recently.
To be fair, you didn't know what to wear, did you?
I didn't know what?
You did know what to wear.
Yeah, no, I didn't know what to wear, so I got this. But no, but it does feel like a lot of things have happened at the same time that are really good, and we thought that might be the theme of the show tonight, because I know people often feel it's 2 steps forward and 10 steps back, but my favorite thing is as soon as this stuff gets past the gatekeepers and gets to the general public say, no, I don't want that.
Yeah, exactly. Like Eddie Izzard. I mean, he's a gift horse, isn't he?
Let's start with Eddie. When someone told me Eddie was running, and they were like, "Oh, Eddie's running," and I said, no, this is great. He's just walked out on a stage with a giant target on his arse, and everything. I mean, Jean Hatchett taking a photograph of him coming out of the ladies' toilets is,
Yeah.
You couldn't see a better expression of male entitlement.
I still am astonished by the Labour Party, though.
Astonished?
Astonished. Totally astonished. But how are they so blind to have let this happen? The visuals of Eddie Izzard running as a woman
Against a Muslim female candidate, who apparently is great. It's very, anyway. But But like it's things like that, you know, like you know, I think we should refer to Eddie as the spinster Eddie as our Eddie Murphy. I nearly said brilliant. Ruined the joke. Eddie Murphy has already, of course, is very gender fluid. He often plays many members of the same family, many of whom are huge black women. So he knows he would have been a good person to bring up there too. But you know, it's just he can't get past it, because the brilliant thing about this fight is that someone like Eddie is now about to realize that you can only change women's rights if every single woman in the world agrees. You know? And it's very far from that. He said in the newspaper thing...
But is that true? I mean, we've seen things happen, and so many women don't agree. I mean, genuinely, like, if you look at the polling, we know that the majority of women don't want male-born people with a penis in their spaces, but yet, you know, yes, thank you. But you know, but still these things are being pushed through.
Yeah, I guess, but I just think the more people learn, the more people see what's really happening, I think the more they're saying, hang on a sec, this is a little bit more complicated than they first.
Oh, yeah.
Mermaids is the best example. Because mermaids, like, there's a great example of what looked like a bad thing turning out to be the best thing that could have happened. Like poor Kate Harris and Bev Jackson, you know, the stress they're under is appalling, you know. But at the same time, because Joyland Mom is such a stupid man, he walked them into a trap, you know, that they didn't have to go into. And when they started, like, it was a funny thing Joyland Mom said today, I think. No, it was John Nicholson, another brilliant man. But John Nicholson said something like, sorry, I should stop talking at some point. But John Nicholson said something like, he said, the LGBT Alliance should publish who's funding them. And it's like, they do.
They were like, thank you.
They're a charity. They have to. You know.
That whole thing has been, the LGBT Alliance Tribunal was shocking and terrifying.
Yes.
But in the end, it was exactly what everybody needed, because Kate Harris and Bev Jackson are absolute heroes of the gay rights movement. They're some of the most incredible lesbians in the world, and they've had to fight so many demons just to prove that they're just lesbians speaking up for the rights of same-sex attracted people.
Oh, did you see...
And this tribunal, these other people attacking them and taking them to court, has given them the platform that they needed to show the world how decent they are.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the people who attacked them have now been shown to be rife with corruption and dangerous safeguarding issues around children and serious ideological crisis.
My favorite fact about mermaids is that when Helen Weberly was asked Helen Weberly was the only expert they had. All the rest of them are just mums who thought their kids were acting a bit weird. But Helen Weberly is someone who was supposed to be the only professional, right? The only expert. And when she was asked I can't remember whether it was the LGBT Alliance thing or something else, but she was asked, who did you kind of study? Where did you get this expertise? And she said, Susie Green.
You know.
The woman who admits on stage. I know I go on about this.
Well, it's because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's what?
Well, it is. It's ridiculous.
I thought you were saying she could kill us. She's not that powerful.
But it is ridiculous. The whole Susie Green sort of ascension in Mermaids and what she has done, and how people just sort of bow down to her.
My favorite.
As if she is just this expert.
And then the entire mermaids testifying that, they're not medical experts.
I know.
Helen Weberly, their medical expert, testifies that mermaids are her medical expert. So there's no medical expert. Right.
Yeah. And WPATH are also advised by mermaids, I think.
Oh my God.
I think Susie Green does something for WPATH. And here's another thing. This is a good place to say this. Here's another one of these scandals. It's just laying around, like Susie Green's TED Talk. Just a scandal laying around. No one wants to talk about or write about, because our journalists are cowards. But Genevieve Gluck's investigation into the eunuch archives.
Yeah.
Like this is a group of fetishists who write short stories about cutting their dicks off. And 40% of the stories are tagged minors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
You know what it reminds me of?
And this is officially linked to from the WPath website.
That's right. It's out in the open. So Helen and I were hanging out a couple weeks ago, and we watched a movie called Spotlight. I'm sure you've all seen this before. This was about the Catholic Church scandal in Boston. And the really interesting
Who fell asleep first?
Well, what happened was, the movie's really interesting to watch because all the evidence was out there in the open. It's just that people didn't want to see it until it was put all together. The narrative had to be strong enough for everyone to figure out, oh, I see. Because each little piece of the story had already come out, but it wasn't assembled with enough force for people to put it all together and for all the people who were enthralled to the Catholic Church's power to stop and break the spell and come together and say, okay, maybe we should do something about this. And I see so many echoes with this movement. All the evidence is out there. We all have the pieces of the story. We're just waiting for everyone else to put them together.
We can see it.
Well, we're putting them together right fucking now.
But the wider society, they're still like, oh, come on, be kind. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, how long do you want us to be kind for?
Yeah, it's interesting how some of these memes. I mean, we're gonna talk to our special guest tonight about this, but there's these sort of like viral mind memes, like be kind, and they just want to live their lives, and it's so cultish, you know. And I think one of the good things about what's going on at the moment is we're zooming out a little bit on it and saying, oh, okay, so this is the first generation that grew up with the internet who have suddenly gone mad. Okay, you know, things like that are hitting people, you know. So What else?
Well, I'm finding it a bit odd because normally at this point we'd be scanning the comments and everyone's talking to each other.
I know. This is the point where I'm looking for Dennis Kavanaugh in the comments to say hi to. Where is he here? Is Dennis here?
No, he's not. I don't think so.
Oh, come on.
I should have. I didn't think to, but I should have. I'm in WhatsApp groups with him.
We did invite him.
Did we?
I think he's on the way.
He might be here.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is we're too close to Soho, so he stopped at every gay bar along the way.
My favourite thing about Artie, can I tell this story?
Of course.
My favourite thing about Artie in London is that since he's arrived in London, whenever we have a production meeting or a chat about things like this, he's in a park.
Yes.
It's like, and then one day he's writing, right? He's talking to us and stuff. He's going, blah, 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 we're having this meeting. And next thing, all the lights go off. And he goes, they close parks here?
No, in the background, we can hear some bloke saying, you got to leave. And Artie's like, oh, the gates are shut. And we were like, I had to do this once. You got to climb, mate. You just got to climb.
And then I see a picture of him and Dennis Kavanaugh in a park. Artie did a brilliant thing recently, actually. He brought me to a bar, and he didn't tell me anything about it. And I was drinking, then I realized, oh, it's a gay bar, okay, you know, and I'm drinking away.
I'm cool.
I'm one, fuck, I don't, you know, don't understand, don't like it, it's a bit gross. No, joke. But the guys don't seem to be, you know, staring at me, so I feel like, okay, this is okay. So we're chatting away. Artie arrives, and I look to the right, and it's like a whole table full of trans-identified men who are all just hanging out. And it was apparently their night, and he brought me on this night.
Totally randomly. Accidentally.
Did they recognise you?
Well, we go out, and there's one person there, and they go, Graham Linehan. And I'm like, yeah.
Was it India Willoughby calling you a chaser?
Yeah. And they held their hand out to me, and they actually did that because I believe that must be traditional, right?
Yeah, in London.
But I just kind of pump her arm, you know. You know, and then I said, all right, see you soon, you know. So to that one person, the India Willoughby story is probably ringing true. But as I said in the comments, I prefer my women to look a little less like Rory Kinnear.
Well, that's funny because I like my men to look a lot like Rory Kinnear.
Shall I come back in a bit?
All right. Now let's get back to our things that were bad but are actually good. I'm blind without my glasses.
Well,
what else do we
Right, because
have?
tonight is a celebration.
Helen
Let's
Joyce.
just be clear.
Helen Joyce and Caius.
We can celebrate Helen Joyce, yes.
Yes.
Now that was a good example of what I'm saying, which is what we're hopefully seeing is the end of the power of the bottleneck of people who believe in this stuff. The people who are between people like Helen Joyce and the general public who totally agree with her.
I was really heartened to see a lot of alumni from I think it was Caius College, sort of writing and saying like, where Caius. Okay, all right, I'm Welshman. Saying we're going to withdraw our support if unless you disavow this thing. Because
I even saw a story that Cambridge students were going to be given lessons in free speech, which, my God, do they need?
That's right.
Hang on, I actually thought that was a joke because they need lessons in free speech.
Yeah, they're giving them lessons in free speech. I think that might have come out of those letters to the, from the alumni.
Yeah, okay, that's
know.
good. That is good.
But thanks for.
And then Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, yes.
So,
well, now here's the thing about.
well, I don't know, because I'm a little bit wary about this. You know, because
they're all terrible. We can't look to them for the only thing.
Yeah,
the only
exactly.
thing I like about him is that he understands Twitter. He knows what, like doing that stupid dad joke about let that sink in.
oh, for fuck's sake!
But still,
I mean,
Jack Dorsey'd be like, what? Let it sink in. What's that mean?
I mean, honestly, but you've got to leave it by a door, haven't you? You
What?
can't just carry it in and
Yeah,
let
I
it
know.
sink in. You've got to leave it by a door so somebody can let it in. It was terrible. But that's not the. But the point is about Musk. I mean, I think because I thought about this a lot when I was banned off Twitter and when we had to go and give evidence to the House of Lords committee, and I did really think about how to sort of frame free speech, and I think in the end it came down to you have to maximise free speech. I think because there always have to be rules because full free speech means that. Mainly, like women, they will be cowed from sort of talking because of the threats of violence and everything that they will get. So I think the goal is to maximise free speech. And I'm not sure that Musk is going to do this.
That's an interesting point. We all, 100% of us agree that we absolutely have to maximize free speech. But when it comes to flooded platforms that can be flooded with trolls and ill behavior, we do have to control the highways a little bit of information, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So it's not as simple as just like let everyone say what they want, because as we know, there's this thing called Russia and there's this thing called fake news, and
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
didn't Elon Musk already retweet an accidental fake news article?
Sure, but
Yeah.
here's the right. Did he? Okay,
Yeah.
but he's just an individual, right?
Yeah, exactly right,
using
yeah.
Twitter. But like, what you might find is that literally, I think we're going to find this. The code changes in Twitter will change society, because that's what's happened here. Like, basically, you have a bunch of people. Let's call them the laptop class, right? Who are all on Twitter. Who are unrepresentative, right? And they all do things like believe pink news and all this sort of stuff and spread these viral memes and stuff. And that happened because of Twitter. There's a like when Billy Bragg someone was mentioning.
Ooh.
When Billy Bragg was mentioning me, he said he was thrown off Twitter. So he's another person who thinks that a bunch of twats in Silicon Valley are moral arbiters that the rest of us need to fucking fall into line about.
Yeah.
It's like insane.
Well, that's why I was so proud of you two testifying at the House of Lords about exactly that.
Yeah,
that
on
these
Zoom.
Silicon Valley companies. Yeah, I know, it was on Zoom, so it just looked like an episode of The Mess.
I know. It was like
It was.
I was like, I'm going to the House of Lords.
I know.
And then
I
it's
was
just me
so
on a screen.
disappointed. So disappointed.
Yeah.
I was
You want to be on one of those big tables with like all these people on either side of you chucking
Well,
questions.
I was hoping to go for tea with
Yeah.
somebody.
Well, yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but I felt very privileged to have at least been given the opportunity to make my point.
Oh, I'm sorry for pissing all over it. I'm sorry for dumping all over the experience. Yes. No, it must have been good for you. You're not in show business.
Nothing like the BAFTAs, Helen. Nothing like the BAFTAs.
Yeah, actually, one of the funny things, like, I'm really happy to be in a tuxedo tonight because every time I've won an award, I've always thought the same thing. Because I got into this when I was quite young, and I've always thought the same thing. I'm not going to wear a tux. I'm going to be an individual. And it's always a disaster. Like, everyone always forgets that I won because they're saying, why was your tie? It looked like it was kind of zooming in and out on your tie. It's because I was wearing something you're not supposed to wear on television. You know?
Camera couldn't.
Yeah, because I was trying to be special. And everyone else looks like fucking James Bond, you know? It's terrible. So I'm glad we got dressed up tonight. Any more bad things that turned out to be good?
Well, the woman, I think her name was Teresa, who had her operation cancelled. I thought that was brilliant news today. That, due to people like us, people like you, writing, protesting, I actually thought her response was brilliant as well. So the healthcare company that is running it, they have said that they are rescheduling her operation in the Wellington Hospital, I think, with, the same surgeons, the same robotic whatever that she was getting.
A Da Vinci machine.
Exactly. And I thought her response was lovely, sort of really measured, saying she's not after compensation. She just wants a dialogue about how this went so badly wrong and how to make it better, how that they can accommodate women who do want single-sex spaces or single-sex care. And that was brilliant. And and that was down to the campaigning things that we do. We rallied around her. So clap for everyone.
Well done, you. But and also the other wonderful thing is like I don't know, it's like gardening metaphor, but is there something that you can put on the ground to make slugs come to the surface? But like, what? Beer. It's like I'll try and slip
Where's
that in
this
easier.
going?
It's like when you pour beer on your lawn, and the slugs come up. No, what it does, bear with me, what it does is it shows the other side as the sadists they are, because all of them came out and they called her a TERF, they called her this and that, they called her name, they said it was her bigotry, that means she can't have men in her spaces and stuff like that. It was fucking, it was, and I think it'll begin to get clearer and clearer to people that what we've known for years, which is that a lot of these people are abusive bullies, and they have nothing to do with trans people. Which I take to mean transsexual, right? They've nothing. They are just bullies who have found in this movement a way of controlling other people.
Well, you did yeah. But there was that video today, wasn't there? I mean, it's been posted for a few days, but I think it gained traction today. Some chap, I can't remember his name, and this is the problem. Like, if I was on Zoom now, I could just have a quick look in the background, and now I'm like, oh, that person who said that thing.
Well, we can get the audience to be our Google.
No, but they haven't got their computers either. So that video today talking about woke movements.
Oh,
that
so good.
in the end, I mean, I'm not sure that I agreed with everything, but it certainly attracted narcissists, and it was he called it a sort of death cult, very, very sort of victim sort of oriented and infantilization.
Well,
and that genuinely really described the trans movement to a T.
The activist movement, you mean? Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, the
this
movement.
is people
Not
latching
trans
on
people,
to self-righteousness,
but the activists.
and sanctimony, and a sense of victimhood and persecution, really to bully other people and to center themselves in their own minds, to be narcissists. You know, we've said this a lot of times. I know I've said this a lot of times, but I hate narcissism so fucking much. You know, drives me crazy. People who are narcissists get away with so much in the workplace because everybody lets them. People who are narcissists, we give them the benefit of the doubt and they take advantage of that. And this movement is a lot of people giving people the benefit of the doubt that they have good intentions, and it's working against the good instead of for the good. You know what I mean?
Well, I think
that's wokeness in a nutshell, right there.
Well,
yeah.
I got a brilliant. Someone had this brilliant description of wokeism today as well, which is.
He's got Google.
Yeah, I should have bought mine.
Where I stand here, someone said, I can't remember who, is that wokeism is a confused collection of hyper-moralistic propositions, neither evidenced nor adequately explained, which relies heavily on enforcing social conformity by spreading fear. Because, like, as we all know, 1 second it's a mental illness when it's useful to be a mental illness. The next thing, it's a fucking hate crime if you say it's a mental illness, and gender dysphoria doesn't exist anymore. The constant shifting of goalposts is something that is only done by kind of manipulative bullies, you know. And what has shocked me more than anything in the last few years is that the grown-ups just let it all happen. All the people who should have said, and may I say Jimmy Mulville of Hat Trick Productions, who's banning a Father Ted musical because he won't stand up for women's rights, is a great example. All he has to do is stick to the principles that you protect safeguarding, you protect women's rights, you protect children from being mutilated, and it would be fine.
You know who you should take a cue from?
Who?
Rafe Fiennes.
Oh!
Who would have ever imagined that Lord Voldemort and Draco Malfoy turned out to be the good ones?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Which of course, the other side are using as evidence that she's evil. Oh, it's so funny. Well, he would say that, wouldn't he? He's Voldemort. I can even forgive him for having a name that's spelled R-A-L-P-H, but is pronounced Rafe. What is that? What else do we have?
So I wanted to actually ask you about the Father Ted, the musical. So no one's contacted you? They've not?
No. I mean, I'm having to seek legal advice now because, they've basically stolen my pension, That was what I made a sitcom recently that was called Count Arthur Strong. Ah, thank you.
With Rory Kinnear, ooh.
Yeah. All the fans are in this room. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. But if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix, and it is good. But it just never caught fire. It never caught fire. No one, people didn't watch it in their droves, And then it got sold to Netflix, and I thought, I'll make some money, And I phoned up my agent and I said, how much money will I make from the Netflix sale? And they said, oh no, you owe them money. And I said, how? And they said, well, because BBC didn't repeat it, you've been paid for the repeat, but they haven't repeated it, so they have to pay back that money before you can make money from. So I've been telling people it's on Netflix in the hope that enough people will watch it that one day I might get paid for it.
So everybody go watch Count Arthur Strong.
Yes, multiple times. Put it on overnight.
Does watching it twice count?
What?
Does watching it twice count? Same person. Yeah.
Good, thank you. So and at the moment the only money coming in is from the Substack. YouTube, we're not making anything from. That's
nothing.
Yeah, I guess
I looked. It was
you
like
need to do
67
something
cents or something like that. Like, there's no point with YouTube.
But point is for everyone to get together and talk.
That's why we're here. I mean, this is
I think
the real event is after, of course. We're gonna do the mess, and then we're gonna get messy. You guys.
Yeah. Honestly, we've just got to get through this bit, and then we can get drunk.
So was there any...
Billy Bragg? Billy Bragg's
Billy
been
Bragg,
tweeting
Billy
again, I
Bragg.
see. He's
strange
done that
man.
thing, hasn't he? He's just doubling down. He just can't bring
The
himself
best
to lose.
thing. The best
he
thing
can't bring himself
recently.
to lose, can he? You know, he's done it, and now he's like, he's in the hole.
Yeah.
And he's like, well...
Oh, no. He's so far in the hole that the other day, Rosie Duffield said a tweet saying...
Oh, yeah.
Saying something like, I hate misogynist me, was the tweet. And Billy Bragg said, people calling me misogynist. And she was like, I didn't mention you.
It's nothing to do with Bragg. Like, nothing.
He's just triggered by the word misogynist now
Yes.
because he knows
Because
he's being
he knows.
talked about.
Yeah.
Misogynist is a dog whistle for Billy Bragg.
Right now, his ears are burning somewhere. He's like, misogynist, I heard it.
5 minutes?
Okay.
Okay, we've nearly hit our 5 minute thing. We're going to...
What?
Yeah. I told
that
you.
went fast.
Yeah,
I told you. They were like, we have to have a schedule. We have to know what we're going to do. I said, we won't even know we were on stage.
I thought we were just getting started.
Well, we can. I think it's pretty elastic, and I'm sure Doozer won't mind waiting a few minutes. And Rosie, are you in a hurry to? You've got a hotel. We've sorted you out. So
That's right.
Rosie K is here, everyone. No.
I still think that we've got the whole Jordan Gray.
Oh, Jordan Gray!
Like,
No, he's the best thing that could have happened. Because, that's what they're arguing. They're arguing that Jordan Gray popped out of the womb like that, you know? When the truth is, he grew a pair of breasts so he could play with them while he's masturbating. That's why he has them, you know? And the public has seen that and gone, he's not selling any tickets for his show. He's not selling tickets.
he's not, but I don't know. Like, I still wonder what the actual general public watching that Channel 4 show thought.
I'd say they all thought, this is definitely Channel 4.
Yeah, true.
Channel 4 has had such a tradition. Do you remember that crappy show, Eurotrash? That's exactly what Channel 4 love. A woman who's had so much plastic surgery that she died as a result of all the plastic surgery she had. And she was made to look a joke and a freak by shows like Eurotrash. And it's just, that's the Channel 4 ethos. All the time we were doing Father Ted, trying to do a show that everyone could enjoy and stuff like that, they were going, oh, let's get on a dwarf and throw them into a pit of naked women. And do you know what I mean? They were always trying to copy the experience of being online. It's like, no, people don't want that when they're watching telly.
But what Channel 4 has given us now is this Jordan Gray person.
Oh, yeah, sorry, bring me back down to earth. Yes, sorry.
But so what's happened is that he was like part of, or certainly brought into schools with that. Was it Educate
yes.
to Celebrate? Educate
This
to
is
Celebrate.
what I'm saying, folks.
And they've been so idiotic as to like publicly say, no, we don't think he's ever actually been into schools. And there's like a picture of him. There's a picture of him with like was it the CEO? There's a video.
Yeah.
And you're
video.
like, they've been...
It's astonishing.
But it's so, like, this movement is so sort of convinced of itself that they haven't even bothered getting rid of the fucking evidence.
Yeah. If I was Susie Green, I would be erasing every copy of that TED Talk. Because that
It's
TED
too
Talk,
late, man.
that TED Talk is so funny because she's been trained. She does all this stuff. You know? She goes... And when people do this, usually you're hearing something intelligent, right? But her story is, our kid liked girls' toys, so we chopped his cock off and fed him hormones from when he was a toddler, you know? And she admits this, and how long has it been out? When was that video
Years
shot?
now. It's been years.
And we're all
15
just,
years?
like, she should be in some sort of investigation.
Yeah.
Oh, she will be at some point.
There
There's
is-
no question.
There is There's a very funny thing that I always love in that video where she goes, because we've seen it so many times now, it fascinates me. But there's a very funny thing where she goes, and he was still playing with girls' toys. That was fine for me, but not for Dad. Okay. But not for Dad. 16 years later, we brought him to Thailand. You know what I mean?
I know. And you're making it funny. You are. But it really fucking isn't, is it?
It's not
It's
funny.
so not funny.
terrible.
I
Do you know
still
what-
can't
it's
bring myself to
terrible.
watch it, you know. I was a very feminine boy. I liked girls'
Yeah.
toys. I wanted to be a girl. I had gender dysphoria. Things like that. It's so painful. I can't even watch it.
Yeah.
So I have to laugh at you. It's
Sorry.
like she was in a barbershop quartet snapping her fingers
Oh,
the way you were describing.
yeah. But don't get me wrong. I mean, the thing is, the stuff that story of hers is skirting over is a kid who wanted to fit in, and they knew that their dad didn't like him, and so Susie Green thought, I know, you know,
Poor bugger.
and the kid never stood a chance, and you know, I just think it's so brilliant that people are seeing things like Jordan Gray, Eddie Izzard, and mermaids at the same time.
Yeah.
And they're going, hang on a sec. And also, you know, people like Paris Lees and Katie Montgomery, all these. Oh, we said we wouldn't mention them. Sorry. But
Yeah, Colin.
but here again another good thing hidden in a bad thing. All those people have praised mermaids. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they've all praised mermaids. Came out of a bit of left field. Men. Yeah, no, you're right there. No argument here. But what these men have been doing is they've been saying, "Oh, I was like one of these children," and they might be convincing themselves of that.
It's a bit of rewriting their own history kind
Yeah.
of going on. Yeah.
But-
and other people's history
Well,
vicariously.
the puberty blockers thing is
The
like
puberty
this, isn't
block-
it?
all these
It's like-
people
it's
said-
always, oh, you know, I wish I could have had puberty blockers. And I'm like, if you'd have had puberty blockers, you wouldn't have this sexual urge
Yeah.
to become a woman.
'Cause your sex
It's
drive would have been completely medically stunted
rewriting-
before you had puberty.
Completely rewriting the history. And
Unfortunately, the next stage of all this, if we finally fight this back, but the next stage has to be taking care of these kids who are lied to by men like that.
yeah.
And you know what? A lot of these kids are going to grow up to be autistic or just women with just going through ordinary struggles of being a teenage girl in such a crazy time. And a lot of these kids are going to be same-sex attracted. And all, save for one, of the rights organizations that had initially been set up for gays and lesbians and bisexuals are not fit for purpose for these kids.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be the pusher of these drugs, and then when everybody realizes that the drugs have harmed the kids, you can't turn around and be the rehab. So we know which organization is going to step up for these same-sex attracted kids who grow up to be dealing with all the medical problems of the transitions that have been pushed on them by bad actors. And I don't mean Daniel Radcliffe, I mean like bad actors. It's going to be LGB Alliance. It's going to be Bev, and Kate, and all their cohorts.
But also, I think at this point we need to give a big shout out to ourselves here on Turf Island for actually, like, you know, pushing the NHS to do that cash report, or pushing the government.
There's another thing.
Oh my God,
for
I
the
am
cash
so
report.
happy to be here.
And you know, and they've done it. They've done it, and it was good.
I love you
No?
guys so much. I don't want to go back to Canada. I'm so happy here. Yay!
Can anyone employ him or marry him?
Give me a job.
Yeah,
Or a wedding ring.
Because he's been in my house now for 8 weeks.
This will be good news. This will be good news. He likes sickly Englishmen with red hair.
Scotsman, actually, but close enough.
Hey, listen, we better wrap up this first half. We're going to bring out a little musical guest who's going to take care of you for a couple of songs, and then we'll be right back with our special guest, who's a big surprise.
Cheers. This has been really lovely, isn't it? So yes, I'm basically my missus is the famous artist Birdie Rose. Yeah, cool. I'm glad you all like her. That's good. I'm gonna play another song for you. This song, which has got the Helen gave me the best review I think I ever could from this song, which was basically, I'm glad you wasn't shit. So that was good. So like with this song, obviously there is dance moves. Yeah, I like the look from everyone for that one. Okay, for the first part of the dance move is put your hands in the air like this. I know you think it's a free country, it's really not. Right, okay, ready? Right, the next one's give a little wiggle. Nice. And then put your mean face on. It's exactly the same as my poo face. And then the last bit is flick the fingers from the middle, like this. Excellent. This is an anti-bully song, and especially with the internet and what's going on with everything at the moment. So if anyone's horrible to you online, this is the fuck you dance. Cheers. I'm Dean Doos and McDoos. I've got a couple of CDs if you're interested. If you don't know what a CD is, ask your mum. The internet is a very strange place where people hide their name and face. It's breeding very brave cowards, where you can message anyone you like, go and be mean and start a fight. It makes you feel empowered. And it's okay to give someone a second chance, but on the third time, give them the fuck you dance. You ready? Put your hands in the air, nice, and give a little wiggle. Put your mean face on, and flick those fingers on the middle. Lovely. Everybody seems so keen to hide away behind the screen and socialise in a virtual world. It makes you feel invincible, 'cause you can say anything at all, and someone will tell you that you're right. And it's okay to give someone a second chance, but on the third time, give them the fuck you dance. You ready? Put your hands in the air and give a little wiggle. Put your mean face on and flick those fingers from the middle. Would you say that in real life? Do you wanna start a fight? Can't we just get along? And what's it got to do with you? How people live their life and choose what to do. It's okay to give someone a second chance, but on the third time, give them the fuck you dance. Ready, one more time, ready? Put your hands in the air and give a little wiggle. Put your mean face on and flick those fingers on the middle. One more time, one more time. Put your hands in the air and give a little wiggle. Put your mean face on. And flick those fingers from the middle. And say, fuck you. Thank you very much, all the do's and the do's. I'll see you all very soon. Bye.
Isn't this adorable?
It's just like the way you're used to seeing us.
Artie on the bottom.
Yeah.
Artie,
You're
you're on
muted.
mute.
Wait, everyone's still getting
That's
drinks. We should
better.
have gotten people time to...
What?
That's okay.
Everyone's still getting drinks. We should have given people time to...
Well.
calm down. Anyway, yes, thank you. Can I just say that Artie made all these?
Yeah.
Isn't
Well
that
done.
lovely?
It's really awkward down here. It's different not in person.
Oh, wait, I'm in the wrong seat.
You are.
Oh, will I say here?
No.
No.
No, I want the comfortable one.
Where are we sitting?
This is yours.
Oh,
This is yours.
okay.
It's all fallen apart already.
Well,
Okay, well, we kind of we probably should have allowed the place to settle after Doozer. This is the stuff we'll learn.
It's fine.
It's only the intermission, guys. There's a lot more to do afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, what one thing we're going to do is we're going to have a special Wham themed competition.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Where I'm going to ask you guys questions.
Are you guys ready for some questions?
Am I allowed to ask why Wham?
Why Wham?
Yeah.
Well, we love the 80s.
Well,
we have a
only
wonderful
because-
DJ who's been playing some 80s for us today.
And the prize is weirdly Wham t-shirts.
Oh,
So-
Yes,
I
but
did.
you see, there's a problem though.
Oh, I did like those
No,
Wham
we'll show
t-shirts.
where we
Yeah.
So let me just see if I can get this first question. Okay. So I asked basically my friends in the Discord group. Anyone here from the Discord group? Hey, hello there. He just did this
Your
to me.
friend.
He
Your
just went like
friend
that.
from the Discord group.
And we thought we'd ask a few questions that would have kind of mind-blowing answers.
You ready to answer some questions?
You
just
ready,
gotta
everyone?
shout them out to us if you know it.
Okay. How long after being inaugurated as president did Joe Biden take to sign an executive order?
Oh!
Wait, there's an A, B, C, and D. Don't be smarty pants. To sign an executive order allowing males to compete in female sports in American schools. Was it? You gotta let me read the bloody things. It won't pique trans people if they don't hear the full thing. Was it A, 6 months? Was it B, 6 weeks? Was it C, 6 days? Or was it D, 6 hours? Yes!
6 hours! Oh my God!
When you're the one who shouted, she gets the t-shirt.
Already, it's a Wham t-shirt, but there was a mistake at the printing office. And it came
Unfortunately,
out.
they did the printing wrong. Sorry about that. That's how we crowbarred the Wham joke in there. So listen, I think we'll have a few more questions later on, a few more Wham t-shirts to be won. But for the moment, would you please welcome our special guest for tonight, Rosie Kay. Yes. Oh, me and Artie get the hard, horrible chairs because we're gentlemen. You see, that's the other reason for the monkey suit. Rosie, thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, hi Rosie.
Rosie, your story I often think is like probably the closest to mine, in the sense that you actually had, like I've obviously had my troubles with the TED musical, but you had a dance company that was actually named after yourself, taken away from you.
Because it was yours.
Was the Rosie K dance company, is that right?
So just a really bit of boring legal stuff for Dennis Canova out there. I set up the company myself in a limited by share capacity, and then it started to get so big that it seemed to be a good idea to turn it into a charity. And under English charitable law, I couldn't be regularly taking money from it, as you can under a commercial company. So I voluntarily stepped down. writing into the charitable object something very strong, like this company is designed to tackle the most controversial and taboo subjects through the medium of dance, of which I had, a sterling track record. And I hoped that would protect me, I suppose. But what it meant, it was wonderful because I just had a baby, so for the first time in 20 years I had a salary, holiday pay, sick pay, pension, stuff that artists really struggled to get. And I thought that's a good, deal there. But what I didn't realise was that at that point I'd ceded control. And when I was making my controversial works earlier about sort of the military or about religion, I'd shouldered the responsibility of any backlash. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you're out of the control seat, everyone else starts to get a little bit nervous. So I think that's the kind of root of this problem. And I'm not the only choreographer and I'm not the only artist that's suffered this fate. Yeah. By trying to grow and get bigger, you give a bit of control away, and then you realise that actually you're holding it in your hands.
Mm-hmm. But this dance company you founded was all about tackling controversial subjects, and you had, and everything worked out. It seems you tackled some controversial subjects like religion and military.
But isn't that kind of hilarious that like that's what you literally were set up to do? And as soon as you get to one that's actually controversial, because when people go, one of the first things I was cancelled from was a speaking tour that I was going to do in Australia, where I was talking about writing sitcoms, and they wrote to me and said, sorry, no, we can't do it, security problems, which is apparently the excuse they use. They say we can't afford the extra security we'd hire, And they said, we're pro free speech. We have Jim Jeffries on our books. And I just thought, what's his trans material like? Do you know what I mean? Because that is the thing that Jim Jeffries, the only comedians brave enough to talk about it are being cancelled, like Dave Chappelle,
And I think like that's, you might not all be dance aficionados. I don't know, maybe you are. But we do have quite a strong tradition, particularly in contemporary dance, people like Martha Graham, Merce Cunningham, that were political artists of their time, and they were shaking up society and they were making statements about the world. And I sort of come from that tradition. But then also through this thing that's happened to me, I've been contacted by family members of Kenneth Macmillan, who was boss of Royal Ballet, and he was almost cancelled for a ballet Anastasia and almost sacked by his dancers, which is, it's a ballet that at the time got poor reviews, but is still being performed 30, 40 years later. So I think there's also there's something about group dynamics and, let me say, cult behaviours. When you lead something, you can also be the victim of that thing that you're leading. They can turn on you. And I've even made works about that. I've been fascinated by this dynamic. And so that's something that happens when dancers are together, you're in an empty, four walls, white, no, hardly ever any props, sometimes just mirrors or curtains. You're in a room. It's a box that can be a box of delights and goodness and heights and depth of humanity, or it can be a hellhole. It really can.
You once told me
this is like a deep communal space. It sounds like.
That's it, and I'm with Peter Brook. It's a sacred space. Yeah. It's a sacred space. You have to go to quite strange places together and be free to do that, both as a choreographer, but as an artist.
And it doesn't work if you're already in a strange place. You were telling me once, and something I've never forgotten, that it really makes me laugh every time I think about it, that there is a dancer out there who goes by they, them. And just the idea of a choreographer trying to give people clear instructions.
No, not they.
Not they.
Not them.
You.
Not
the three people over there. Him.
Could they go over? Not they. They go over there and then come in through. It was so complicated, and I was trying my best.
Oh, did you direct it? Did you actually do this? I thought you were just saying.
No. So it was just a production of Romeo and Juliet, and it's a big production. It's on the large scale. It had, big global agents. It was a contemporary reading of Romeo and Juliet. I've been working on it for 5 years with the Muslim majority primary school that I tested out all my ideas on. I'd worked with West Midlands Police for several weeks. I'd been on the beat. it was actually more scary than when I joined the army because it's so unpredictable. It's in the city that I've adopted in Birmingham. You know, I knew it was controversial, and I thought this show might break me, but for different reasons. You know, like going into Birmingham gang culture, working with gang members, working with former gang members. It's dangerous stuff. Yeah. But then, yeah,
that wasn't.
That sounds
that wasn't
more
incredible.
on my
It's not the
radar.
gangs. It's not the brutal, you know, the broken parts of the world that we're trying to fix that's scary. It's the middle class kids who insist on they them are the ones who end up being the villains.
Well, I say nothing. Yeah.
You mentioned cults there, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, because you've actually studied cults. I think that part of the explanation of what's happened in the last 10 years is that we've kind of experienced a sort of naturally forming cult that's formed almost like, you know, the way they say a movement is astroturfed. It doesn't come from the people. Well, this kind of did, but it didn't come from the people. It came from middle class people. You know, this stuff is adopted. That's why it's taken over publishing, theatre, journalism, TV. It's because these are middle class kids, you know. And I have a theory that like a lot of parents are kind of guilty that they let their kids grow up with the internet and stuff like that, and so they. I'll very quickly give you a bizarre little example of what I'm talking about. Apparently, one of the evolutionary reasons that we have kids is so they'll tell us, and this is true, I believe, is they will tell us how to use the remote control. because our brains are so full of the stuff that we've accumulated over the years that if a remote control comes in with 3,000 buttons, you have to go, can you just sort this out for me? And the kid who has nothing in his brain just goes, and he's got it. But a terrible thing has happened. Because parents have let their kids grow up on the internet, they've done a similar thing. They've outsourced their ethics to their kids. Their kid, like I actually saw this happen for real. I was walking, I was getting on the London tube, and there were the London tube. I've been out of town a while. And I saw a kid with his dad, and I literally heard the kid going, "That's why lots of trans people commit suicide," and blah 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 blah, you know. And it's like, oh, there's an example. He's indoctrinating his father.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
where did the kid get it from, right? You know,
the kid gets it from his friends and the internet.
Yeah, but where does it all? Yeah, but it all started really, didn't it? Like the kids had to come in. It was the Autogyna files, really, wasn't it? They had to bring the kids in. They had to bring the kids in, but they've done it this way.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I wanted to ask Rosie.
So the irony is, I decided, I had a really big serious injury. I was still performing, and I had a big serious injury. And following the injury, I kind of had this vision of a trilogy of works. And I used to jokingly call it Things You Should Not Talk About at a Dinner Party.
Oh, you're kidding, right?
I'm not kidding. And it was looking at...
Anyone see Jordan Gray the other night?
It was looking at war, which became Five Soldiers, religion, which became There Is Hope, and then the final part. And so I joined an infantry battalion to look at war, and of course, in some respects, that's like cult-like behaviour, because you have to sacrifice so much of yourself that you risk not just injury, but your life. And they're really tough. You know, I was an all-male infantry. Who the hell was I? But once you're in, you're in. And it was just an unbelievably extraordinary experience, and I made a show about that. Religion. I went to India and China on my own, which was really stupid, but really interesting, and you know, it was dangerous. It was really dangerous. But I learned a lot about like how religion and the planet and climate change. You know, I was a kind of progressive choreographer. You know, and then the third part was meant to be about politics, and that's when I started getting obsessed with the proliferation of conspiracy theory, and I was seeing it coming up from the early 2012s onwards, and I just felt this huge force growing. And so one of the first things I did was I went to schools and I went to colleges. And I started asking all these young people what they believed and they didn't believe. And it was a really odd thing because it was a bit like religion, but they believed it and they didn't believe it at the same time. So they're holding two thoughts and it was secret from adults. And that's where, for me, I then encountered the trans stuff. So it wasn't actually through the women's movement. I mean, pretty quickly I found the women's movement and went, wow, there's amazing people speaking about this. Like Jane Clare Jones was a big one at the, about 2017, 18. Yeah. Like just a bright light in the mist. But I saw how I was connecting the other dots in terms of like what the military do, what religions do, what pop industry was doing, and how that was going to affect politics. I was told by an academic, because I was working at Oxford at the time, as in the School of Anthropology, so I was discovering, I was looking at online tribes. And I was asking academics, come on, this is the next thing, this is the next thing. And I was told that to keep looking at it would be career suicide.
Wow.
So I was like, yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah, that's
this is cool.
You literally founded
And
a
they
dance
were
company
right.
to look into controversial things.
Well, I was told I was bonkers, and then I put it on the big stages at Laban, at Queen Elizabeth Hall, at South Bank Centre. And by then, Trump had got in, Brexit was going. Oh, conspiracy theory. It was in the FT, like they quoted Rosie Kay, and her work is going to affect investors' prospects. So I was like, okay, this is people are starting to pick up. To go back to your point about, I think young people, so I was working with young women with eating disorders and disordered eatings in Oxford, and I was looking particularly with the School of Anthropology at those pro-ana sites.
Oh, yeah.
And they really quickly morphed from pro-ana into self-harm.
Sorry, pro-ana is
pro-anorexia.
And there was a very specific date we could track that to, because it was the date when the social media website Tumblr created a policy that would shut down all the pro-ana Tumblr discussion groups. And that was the exact date when everybody shifted to obsessing over their bodies via anorexia to obsessing over their bodies via gender dysphoria and calling themselves transgender. That's right. That was the very day.
Wow.
So I was like right on that nerve point, because it went from pro-ana to self-harm. And then into suicidal ideation. Really, really dark stuff. And then from there morphed into trans sites. And I think I understand. So I'm a dancer, right? I understand not being comfortable with my own body, hating my own body, living with mirrors, wanting to have a completely different body, seeing another body, wanting that body, not this body. And actually, it's only through the doing, the action, the being in your body, being, challenged mentally and physically, do you learn and grow to become an adult who can deal with themselves and still has moments of, body dysmorphia or body dis-ease. What this has done is fuel it. And I think these young people are victims. They're victims of something.
Yeah.
Like every woman understands that. It's only, for me, it was only after having children, really, that I became a bit more comfortable in my body, but in a different way, because basically you just looked at everyone else who had children.
You don't want to go through
we
that
all
again.
look the same now.
Well, do you think that these kids are? Do you think they'll ever? But here's what I'm worried about. I'm worried not just about what these kids have put their bodies through, but I'm worried that they're going to realize that the whole of society told them this terrible lie. Yeah. So we're not only, and this is something that one of the reasons why I'm so hard on journalists like John Ronson is we are getting into a period where it looks like we're going to get social instability, climate instability. Yeah. We need to be able to trust people like John Ronson. Like John Ronson would refuse to say whether these obvious men were men when I showed him the photographs. Refuse to say it. And that's not healthy.
No, it's really frightening that you've got people who should be just simply trying to lead.
He should be telling the truth.
Yeah.
It's that simple. But he's too frightened to tell the truth. And
I think there's something so profound about this, because also, I'm an artist, spent my whole life, being an artist. If you completely deconstruct reality and there is no truth, then there is no place for an artist. That there is no imaginative space.
Well, look. I always.
Well,
I.
I think, but almost more profound than that. I mean, if
Isn't
there is
this
no
ba-
truth, if there is no truth, like, how do we even go on as a society if
Well,
there is no truth?
how do you do comedy if you don't know what
Exactly.
you're allowed to laugh at?
But how do you dance if there's no such thing as the material world and we all live in avatars online? I don't think it's a coincidence that yourself as a dancer, you know everything about deeply connecting with other people mentally because you have to synchronize with each other, but also being deeply connected to your own body and connecting that to your psychology. You're so grounded in the physical material world and not the virtual world. And you know who else is? Coach Linda Blade, who is a Canadian athlete. Yay, Linda Blade.
That's very
Isn't she
true.
amazing? Because she's also grounded in that when you're playing team sports as a group of women, you're psychologically connected to each other, you're bonding on that level, and you're deeply connected to your bodies at the same time. This is the absolute opposite of the virtual world. So I don't think it's remotely a coincidence that an extraordinary dancer who brings politics into her physicality and a woman who's been a women's rights champion her whole life, who brings women's rights into her physicality as an athlete, are two of the leading women to speak up for this movement. Don't you agree?
Thank you. I mean, I'm starting to wonder if we're going to have a sort of separate world that's based in reality. Like, do you know what I mean?
Anti-metaverse? Is that-
well, we know it's not working. You know, like he's lost billions already this week, whatever. But I think we've already lost a lot of even ourselves. Actually, I've got to admit, you know, to being a little bit, you know, addicted to my phone. And my son who's 8 and who's very analog. Bless him. You know, says, you know, Mummy, can we have, you know, no phone days, please?
Oh my God, this is
There's a
coming from the
backlash.
kid up?
It's like literally
Wow.
the opposite
That's
of
great.
every
That's
family ever.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better example of the boiling frogs metaphor, except for maybe the fact that it's getting it's very hot for October. But do you know what I mean? I mean, we like I was the same. I just kind of thought, oh, this is great. This is like so entertaining, and you could put a film on for the kids and give them an iPad and stuff like this. And before you know it, you know, I mean, I just look at it now, and I see people who, like the type of people who would like to kick my arse, they never see me. They're always looking at their phones when they pass by. I have passed by so many people and thought he would really go for me if he was looking up. You know? So that's the protection we have against them. But it's you know, we've just kind of slipped into this. And here's the other conversation we have to have. Like, you know, Jordan Gray on Channel 4 doing what he did could not have happened in a world that didn't have pornography on tap.
Yeah.
Like Jordan Gray is the
absolutely.
result of someone who's watched too much pornography.
So I was just at...
He's like a David Cronenberg character who's seen so much pornography that he's grown breasts.
Yeah. I was just at the Filia conference last week in Cardiff. Big shout out. And there was an extraordinary French lawyer who is trying to break the pornography industry in France. And she said, I am doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it. We're going to use existing laws and we're going to go for it. And I'm not going to give up. And I've got a team of young lawyers and we're doing it. I think, like, you know, going back to earlier around the anorexia thing, you know, this is why, like, young women and young women's bodies and young women's burgeoning sexuality and sexual needs is so at threat and being so attacked is partly because of this proliferation of the industrialization of porn. It is one of the biggest industries in the world, and it uses women as a hate crime. Like, it absolutely does. And it changes how women feel and think, particularly young women feel and think about their new burgeoning bodies and their new desires, and it completely changes young men, unfortunately.
Yeah,
and as the mother of a
that's
son,
absolutely right.
that absolutely terrifies me as much as having a daughter, because we know, and I've worked with neuroscientists, we know that it changes their neural pathways
And
into
this
a
is
visual
children.
rather than a body-to-body, physical, felt, lived, sensational, how do you learn how someone else feels about their bodies? Well, not through your eyes doing something.
And it leads to terrible sexual experiences for these kids. These young girls, the shit that they have to put up with.
That's shocking.
That's expected of them. It's just shocking.
That's
Absolutely.
shocking statistic that 1 in 3 women have been either spat on, strangled, or what's the last one?
Choked.
Or slapped.
Or slapped, yeah.
Or slapped during, and this is the frightening part, otherwise consensual sex. So
Otherwise consensual.
Yeah.
That's a very loaded word.
But do you know what I mean? These women are bringing these guys home and they're hitting them and spitting on them and using all these tropes from pornography, And they weren't aware that this was even on the fucking cards,
And they're exposed to this from such a young age.
Yeah.
Well, my God, we're not talking about a nudie magazine in the rafters. We're talking about children, very young children.
Well, anyway, look,
yeah,
we're getting into a very dark area.
Yeah.
Let's
lighten it up.
Let's wrap it up. I think what we must do is because we have our comment section here, we should get a few questions from the audience. So,
hey, do we want to do another trivia question, though?
Look, it's Maria.
Yay!
Maria, of course, who brought one of Maria's many achievements is that she brought Baroness Nicholson into this fight, because Baroness Nicholson heard of Maria being punched on Speaker's Corner, and it made her so angry that a woman could be hit at the centre of free speech in the UK. That she entered into it. So congratulations for that and all your other wonderful achievements. Right, does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any questions for any of our guests? For Rosie? Oh, Maria herself, yes. Should I hand this over, or do we have a roving microphone? Or? What? Oh, this is... Okay. I don't think this will rove.
It will rove enough.
All right.
You just have to unwind it. Yeah.
All right. There you go.
Actually, I don't have a question. I just want to know where my girl Birdie Rose is. I'm joking.
She's over there. She's over
I
on
do
the other
have
side.
a question. I have this amazing YouTube channel called Peak Trans. Thank
Yay!
you. And there is a question I've been asked that I really need your help with, guys. What the fuck is driving this shit? So I've heard it comes from Big Pharma. I've heard it comes from academia. Oh, I've heard all sorts of things. But I would really like to know your opinions on this.
Well, I think it's a perfect storm of
That's
a
right.
number of things happening
exactly.
at the same time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm. The social media is really when the fuel was poured on the fire. Of course, it started with academia being a little bit silly, but off in the corner, being silly. It started with the wonderful, wonderful progress of gay rights and lesbian rights and bisexual rights. Yay. And then that became sort of settled into the status quo, and it became kind of an industry. And then they needed to keep fueling that inertia and that wonderful sense of well-being that gays and lesbians have. That became corrupted. Money got involved. Banks got involved. Corporations got involved. So there was a sort of corporatification of gay rights, social media, academia, and then...
Tumblr.
Tumblr. I mean, yeah. In a one-word answer, it's Tumblr. But in a longer answer, it's like, also, there's so much money to be made in this. I think the money came later, though. It wasn't like a bunch of people got together in some kind of sinister stonecutters lodge with Monty Burns, and, decided that this would all be put together. It was much more like it slowly came together through social media. It came together through academia. It came together through the slow corporatization of gay rights. And then...
Yeah, but Stonewall
surgeons
also,
got involved.
But you know, Stonewall, you know, money there
Well,
as well. They
it's the charity-
needed to make money.
They
you know.
were, but they were late to the game.
I wonder-
They jumped on board later on, but then it exploded like a fire.
But I wonder if it can also be, I wonder if one major part of it is possibly the corruption of the charity sector. Like we've seen how, like you've had Amnesty International and Liberty wouldn't stand up for J.K. Rowling.
That's exactly right.
In fact, joined in the harassment against her, you know? So I think that, I mean, when you outsource, like these parents are outsourcing their ethics to their kids, when you outsource your ethics to a corrupted charity, then you're going to get, you know, things like Alison Bailey being bullied at work, you know?
I do think there is an ideological basis behind this. And I think it's probably longer and deeper than we even can uncover. I think we can go back about 40 years. One sort of like example at the end of this, I would say, is that if you look at TikTok in the West, which is, you know, what we know from Libs of TikTok, versus TikTok in China, which is an educational tool, then you've got to wonder, well, hang on, what's going on there? You know, and the Chinese art of war is a war of deception. It's not a war of, like, kinetic conflict. It's a long, slow, 100-year war. And so I think we need to sort of look at what is the weakness in the side or the heel of the West? And tolerance is always a weakness. Pluralistic societies, democratic societies, they're always seen as weak to those that like force and power. There are different ideologies out there in the world that see things in a longer game than 4 to 5 year elections.
And if there was
that's so true because this movement really does weaponize our desire to do good. That's the thing that we always see, is that people think, I'm just doing good by listening to what other people are telling me is the good thing. And so it becomes deeply tribalistic.
But
if you question anything, you're part of the bad side.
But that's what I mean. You know, a lot of people are too exhausted. Like, one of the hallmarks of this movement is that it's so incoherent. It's deliberately confusing. You don't know what the rules are. You don't know what the words mean. You have to have cis explained every single time you hear it. You know, and some people go, you know what, I'll leave it to the HR department, you know?
Or what they'll go is, you know what, you're talking about this and it's confusing me, so I'll just back away from you. That's the hardest part.
Bigot.
I'm sure we've all lost friends and families and loved ones just for trying to bring this up. They're not saying they disagree with us, they're just saying this is a scary topic, go away. That's the upsetting thing, you know?
Yeah. Anyone else got any other questions? Oh, here we go. There you go.
Hi, I was just going to say, I think actually when you do speak out, so I've been a nurse for 30 years, and you don't have to clap for, that really embarrassed me, all the people clapping for nurses. It was really terrible. I was like, oh God in the house, like, stop clapping. And
you had years of it, didn't you, during COVID?
And I worked in intensive care during COVID as well. And one of the things that I really realised is that actually most people in the NHS don't buy into any of this at all, but they're just waiting for someone else to say. Right. So I now work for the Department of Health, and I was in a national meeting looking at how we collect data on various types of trainees, and we had a conversation about how you collect EDI data. And our EDI person, who's very woke, who actually is linked to someone who works for Gendered Intelligence, who is the advisor to the civil service about EDI, said we had to have sex as gender, and you had to say male, female, intersex, and transgender. And I said, actually, no, you don't, because sex is the protected characteristic in law. That's the protected characteristic.
And also in biology, but yes.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that
kind of important in medical health.
It is kind of important. Also, transgender is not the protected characteristic, but it's not part of sex. And intersex is a diagnosable medical condition. And we shouldn't be asking people about their medical conditions in EDI data. It's really awful.
Exactly right. And that's a very pro-people with gender dysphoria statement to say.
And then what happened was I was then referred on to this person from Gendered Intelligence who wrote a very stiff email back, including me in, basically saying, well, there are some people in very bigoted organisations, and use that word, And that was, I think, designed to provoke me to go, are you trying to say I'm a bigot? And then, look, let's pick this person out.
Yeah.
But the crux of my story is that the data we're now collecting says male or female.
Excellent.
Because everybody agreed that we have to collect the right data. So you just have to stand up and say, from a place of not being mean and not being a bigot, you just have to say, we have to be clear about what we're asking. If we need to ask other things, we can ask them.
Yeah.
But if we're asking about sex, it's male or female. If we want to ask people about their identities, you can list them all.
That's right.
But
That's
we have
brilliant.
to be clear about what is the law, what does it ask for. Anyway, sorry, that wasn't even a question, I was just blabbing.
Yeah, but that's excellent.
great. Can you give it to this gentleman here? There's a lady back there with the glasses, if that can reach far enough. Thank you. Sorry about that. I should have gone for someone nearer maybe, but I didn't see anyone just there. There we go.
Hiya.
Hiya.
I'll keep it fairly brief, but
Okay.
I think there's a bit of overlap with the previous speaker. But my personal experience is I also work in the public sector. I work in policing. Please don't hate me. I'm not a police officer.
No, don't worry. Don't worry.
I'm a PCSO. Again, it's this thing I have observed around institutional capture, and I'm really, on a professional level, very concerned that management really do not understand the issues around this thing, and they don't understand the seriousness and the importance of crime reporting statistics and why data is important. And almost that you're not being, if you've got an offender who's assuming a trans identity, I'm always focused on the behaviour of the person concerned and their criminality, not their identity at all. But I feel like we're being very discouraged to play this down when it's actually a factor in their offending behaviour.
Absolutely.
And that concerns me a lot. And also, given that so much of neighbourhood policing and community policing is around safeguarding issues. We work with vulnerable people. We are doing adult protection and child protection referrals via MASH hubs to social care teams that we can't experience. We can't express our concerns around really vulnerable individuals around this. I've actually been, sort of taken into a disciplinary meeting and threatened around, with that. You're making yourself vulnerable to accusations of transphobia.
Wow.
But can I just say, what you said, you framed it beautifully when you said, we need to put behavior first and identity second, because that's what they're saying is the opposite. If someone tells you they have an identity of XYZ, you can ignore all the red flags of their behavior. And that's exactly wrong. It doesn't matter what you identify as. If you are sending the signals that your behavior is bad, that's what matters. In criminology, we should all know that. So thank you.
I absolutely, feel for you. And I've also undergone 2 investigations for just saying the same things, that this is important, this is about reality, it's about safeguarding, and yet we are the ones hounded.
Yeah.
It goes against all our training.
And also, can I just say, there is another thing that really, really annoys me about Graham Norton and people like that, is when he says there's no such thing as cancel culture, he's not thinking about you being brought into a disciplinary meeting. He doesn't even know about it because he doesn't do the research. His imagination. He's so privileged, he's so coddled that his imagination can't stretch to what it means for an ordinary person trying to bring up this stuff. And the thing that blows me away about what you said is that, again, the adults in the room, how do they not know that robust data is important?
Well, you are the adult in the room.
Yeah, Well, you'll be running the cops soon, and that's what will happen. When all this turns around, you just stick with us, sister. Yeah.
Hi, don't
Are we running? I think yes. This might be the last question.
No, we've got 3 more.
3 more, and then we're done. Okay.
Hiya.
And then we'll have a final wham giveaway.
Oh, yeah, yes, sorry. Margaret Thatcher.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. I had to come dressed as a twat.
No.
My question's brief, but obviously you're all from different industries, I suppose. But you've presumably all been brought to this for different reasons. I wanted to know, are you shocked that you're in this fight? I mean, how often do you sort of take stock and go, what the fuck? Why am I doing this? But also, it's not funny. It's quite sad. Why am I feeling sorry for you?
Don't stop them from laughing.
No, well, I know that's your job, but like, it's not my job. Right, and also, what have you had to do prior to this that you think has actually held you in quite good stead? Because obviously nothing can prepare you for an onslaught that's just, it's so left field.
Yeah, I mean, I often ask people like Fred Sargent, for instance, who's a wonderful, I mean, if you want to know how corrupt this movement is, the fact that Pink News tried to say that he wasn't at Stonewall. They say shame on them. They said...
The founder of Gay Pride, the organizer of the first Gay Pride parade in all time, a witness at Stonewall, and they treat him like he's an enemy at a fucking gay rights publication.
Yeah. Well,
fucking believable.
But often I ask people like Fred and older people like that, I say, have you ever seen anything like this before? And they all say the same thing. They say, no, never seen anything like this before. We really have to take this. There's, again, to stick with our theme of the evening, of an advantage hidden in a disadvantage, we have to use this to look at the internet and say, how the fuck do we make sure this doesn't happen again? How do we make sure that our kids aren't grooming each other, telling each other a load of nonsense? I think the main thing is that those kids are gonna grow up, even the ones who are pushing this stuff, those kids are gonna grow up wondering why they were lied to by people like your bosses. Yeah. And why they were lied to by people like the BBC. There's got to be an investigation into the BBC, the way the BBC have covered this. Got to be. Next question.
Hello.
Do you want to come up on the stage, or would that make it worse for you?
It would make it way worse.
Okay.
Graham, you mentioned about outsourcing ethics to the younger generation, like parents have just forgotten that they actually know stuff that their kids don't know. And Rosie, you talked about this idea that kind of nefarious forces might be sensing a weakness. That's what you called it, a weakness. And I'm wondering if that weakness is guilt. And I'm wondering if...
I think so.
I mean, young people have always thought that their parents' generation was full of shit, always. But I think it might be worse. I don't know, because I'm quite young. It's the first time I've done this, being a young person. I think that that's what's happening. But never before have we inherited such a shit pile, in terms of globally, existentially, what's happening to the environment.
Yes.
And we think, why do we trust these people with anything?
I think
their
you've
art,
nailed it.
their intellect, whatever it is. We're just like, no, fuck it, we know better because they fucked this up. But I don't agree. But I think
but I think you've nailed it.
I think so. I think
a lot of people are guilty.
I think we've touched on this before. I think one of the only capital that young people actually have is this sort of idea that they have a language that they can talk to that the older generation don't really understand. So they're like, oh, I don't really know what this stuff is, or I won't, I'll sort of ignore it. Because, genuinely, they haven't really got that, it is looking bleak for them, in terms of compared to maybe the generation before. I think this is the first sort of generation which is sort of, the outlook is worse than for their parents. It's always been an upward.
I've got a little bit of a theory about this because there's those of us that grew up in the 90s and we're actually quite a small. We're actually numbers-wise quite a small generation. And we were the ones hectoring our parents about environmentalism and gay rights, the ones telling my dad that he was homophobic for not liking Boy George, that he had to clean up his paper mill for environmentalism. And there's a generation of us, and we should be in the positions of power right now. We absolutely should. But because we're a small generation, and the generation above us have not let go. They have not retired when they should have retired. They've stayed in positions for sometimes 20, 25 plus years. There is a log jam. they're still there and they feel guilty and they're like, oh, we're out of touch. We're in the middle going, why are we still being treated like we're kids when we're in our 40s and we don't have positions of power? And then the next lot is coming up and just getting the jobs above us. And we're like, oh, shit. So I think there's a bit of a logjam going on.
And also I think that there's been a tradition. It's not just the fact that kids have rebelled and said that adults were stupid on certain things. There's been a long kind of tradition that the kids actually do have something to tell their parents, right? And we've trusted them because they're, oh, okay, well, I didn't understand, but now I understand. Unfortunately, the trans issue is just completely concocted on the internet. And they've just told each other this stuff, and it's wrong. I often say to people, what this is hippies without the music.
But I do think there's one more thing. It is important that we are listening. Like, some of us are, like all of us here, we are actually listening and we're saying, no, this is nonsense, as opposed to, saying, oh, okay, well, you must know better. And I think that's a really important point.
Yeah. No, it's a good thing. Hello.
Hi, hello everyone.
Hello.
I have two things. First of all, if you work in the public sector, please come and find me after, because we're making progress in the public sector. Come and see me, okay? It's good.
Great.
Find me. But my other question is, so I think what's really important is to break through America and Canada. So maybe Artie is a better place to answer this question.
Okay.
But in the UK, we've got, the Equality Act, which is brilliant, so you can argue your case and you can protect yourself on, various different levels. But the US doesn't have anything like that, and I don't know about Canada, but I feel like if we can cure America and Canada, we'll win. But where do we start in the West?
That's such an amazing question, but that's the reason I'm here, because the honest truth is that I think the U.S. and Canada got fucked by proxy, but the U.S. got fucked by Donald Trump. I think Trump, to many people on the left, was just so insane, the left just freaked the fuck out, and in my opinion, rightly, because I'm on the left, and I think Donald Trump was a seriously dangerous person to be leading the Western world. That puts people on such an alarm that they couldn't talk about any other issues. This just created this desperate and terrifying split between left and right that people on the left had to huddle together and never dissent from anything, or else they would get banished to MAGA land. You know, there's this feeling like you can't talk about mandatory pronouns. You can't talk about men and women's sports. You can't talk about children being surgically operated on. You can't talk about the stuff because that might lose your standing among the left, and then you'll be banished to the terrifying land of guns and and MAGA hats. This is genuinely what's going on. So what we need to do really is solve the problem in the UK so that we can use the UK as a model to show the West.
Agree.
This is exactly why I am here, because in Canada, it is so intractable. Even though Canada doesn't have Donald Trump's American, we're basically glued to America. We're kind of stuck to it. Just north of it, we're stuck to it. So you need to solve the problem here, and you're doing such an extraordinary job because the entire rest of the English-speaking Western world is watching, and we need you to solve this so that we could say, look at Britain. Look at Britain, look what they did. Yeah.
Just to add that this is true. I was at a conference early in the year around freedom of speech, and they'd invited me before I became, the symbol of freedom of speech. And I was speaking to a Japanese delegate, and they said exactly that. They said, you are a very, very strange, difficult country, but we all watch you. We all watch you.
Good.
So I think, I think you're right. Let's fight the battle here and let's get it sorted.
And also, can I just say, I really want to mention it because it's the bravery is stunning me at the moment, but Kelly J in America. Just like You know, like I'm not frightened when I go to a protest here. I'm not frightened of the you know the people dressed up as children's TV presenters who shout abuse at us. But in America, I think it's a totally different story.
Yeah.
And really, Kelly J should receive some sort of honor for her bravery. You know, quite unlike. Quite unlike Peter Tatchell pretending to be arrested in Qatar. That was an interesting one.
But I just want to say, I thought that was such a great message that I think we should end on, which is everyone here in Turf Island, we should be really proud of ourselves. We should all be really proud of ourselves. Yeah. And I think we should all give ourselves a round of applause.
Yeah.